Good
while I am
afternoon.
So I
I am
getting my
Sabrina.
screen in
Good
place.
afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Preparing for Tax Season, Small Business Edition, given by the awesome Dr. Sabrina Brown. Sabrina, we're so glad you're here. I'm going to turn it over to you now, okay? You're muted.
Sorry about that. I still had you're sharing your screen up. Okay, now let me get this back right. There we go. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. As Miss Yolanda just stated, I'm Dr. Sabrina Brown, and I'm super excited to be here. I'm actually in North Carolina right now, but I've been in St. Louis for about 9 years. And I first met Miss Yolanda when I opened up along with Justine Peterson to start my real estate company. So I have apartments on the north side, still working on getting them up and running. But very grateful for Justine Peterson organization and the leaders there in the office. Um, so why I'm here today is really to just try to give as many tips as I can on taxes and how to prepare business owners for the tax season. A lot of times we leave money on the table or we don't get the benefits or credits that we deserve and or need financially. So I'm trying to give you just some tips and tricks that will help you along the way. With the overview, excuse me, let me move this. Looking at myself. Okay. Overview, introduction. And if there's any business owners on here, if you don't mind, drop in the chat your name and the business that you have, just some free promotion. I'm going to go over business structures, EIN and the filing requirements, business income and expenses, business credits and deductions, state, federal, and local taxes, some important dates and deadlines, and then what you need to file. We're also going to have time for question and answer. So if you have any questions that are really just off the top of your head right now, please feel free to put them in the chat, because oftentimes through presentations, people forget what they're going to ask because there's so much more information. So if there's questions that are just, really at the top of your head, please put it in the chat so we can get to it. Do you know your business structure? So business structures, there's a lot of people have LLCs, but as your businesses grow, you may have a corporation, you may have a partnership, and this next slide is going to really show you what the difference is. If you have if you have a sole proprietorship, it's just you. You are the business. If you have a partnership, of course, it's you and someone else going into the business together. The LLC is what most of us have. And it doesn't necessarily save you money, but it protects you when you're filing your taxes. A S corporation, you have to have salary taken out of it, and then you will see the profit. And then there's the C corporation, which is business first. And I actually just learned, I always thought that with the S corporation, you had to be invited by the IRS to be in that status. But I just had a client reach out and say they learned that you can apply to be a part of an S corp or to turn your business into an S corporation, and that saves you money on the back end. And so from what I've learned so far, you have about 2 weeks and 2 months and 15 days at the start of the new year in order to apply to be an S corporation, and it will save you on the tax line, on the tax side, but it does require salary coming out. So just a little bit of information about that. But for the most part, most people's business structure is an LLC. The employee identification number. It is absolutely free. It is your social security number for business. That is essentially what it is. And it attaches your business to you as a person. So I have people who will come to me and say, how do I file my business taxes? If you have an LLC, your business tax is connected to you. So you will file your taxes as a person, but when it gets to self-employment, you will have your EIN number, which will go back to your social, but that was the social number just for your business. So that's the big difference between an EIN. A lot of times people will start a business and they will not have an employer identification number. But what that stops you or limits you from doing is hiring employees, opening business accounts, or receiving or issuing 1099s. And 1099s are the forms for contract employees. So if you worked at maybe Walmart, that would give you a W-2. But if you work for for an example is Instacart. If you work for Instacart, they will give you a 1099 because you don't get benefits, you're not contracted to them, you are an independent contractor and you work for yourself. And so if you have a business and you have employees, you'll want to issue them 1099s. So you have to have this employer identification number. Excuse me. How do I get an EIN? You apply on the IRS website and it's completely free. But once you have that EIN, you have to use it when you file your business. So if you braid hair, this year and you didn't have an EIN, next year you get the EIN and you don't submit the number, the IRS will notate that. You have to use the EIN once you have it. And again, if you don't have one, it's not too late to go online and get one for your company. Incomes and expenses. Any money that you receive from your business, whether you are cutting grass or pressure washing, any money that you get, whether that's cash, checks, Zelle, Cash App, PayPal, Stripe, if you take credit cards, whatever you do, that is considered your business income. Your business expenses are the things that you pay for to operate your business. I think one of our clients on here today, one of the colleagues on the call today mentioned she's at a car wash. If you are renting that space for your business, that is money. That is an expense. If you are paying a water bill, if you are purchasing supplies, these are all expenses. If you're purchasing receipt paper, anything that you're purchasing, anything for your business, if you have a business cell phone, that can be used as well. Another thing people don't think about is when you operate a business from your home. If you have a home and you have dedicated space for your business, a home office, you can look at the square footage of your house and pull out the square footage of that office and figure out the numbers for your rent, because that's a business expense. You're operating out of your house. So these are just some of the things to think about when you start thinking about filling out the forms when you go to your tax preparer. Best practices, you want to have separate business and personal finances. A lot of people, I know it's hard if you're starting out a business, you pull from your personal money and you put it into your business. It's really best practice to have it separate. And if you have to do that, you still want to keep your receipts separate. If you have mileage logs, if you're traveling, you want to keep all of that separate, because again, that is a part of your business, operating your business. And you really don't want to put personal stuff on there. You really just want it to be business. So that's why it's best to, once you get moving and get into a good position business wise, you want to keep those things separate. Okay, deductions and credits. Deductions reduce the taxable income. A deduction is the amount you subtract from your income when you file, so you don't pay tax on it. Now, a credit is the money that is reduced because, and it says it's more powerful. Credits reduce the tax owed. And a credit amount is what you subtract from the tax you owe. So the difference is, I think it's on my next slide. Yeah. So a deduction would be if you are in St. Louis, I pulled up some things locally. I mentioned the home office deduction, but the energy efficient commercial buildings, that is a deduction. If you have a business that meets the criteria of energy efficiency, that is going to help you with a deduction. So you would put that in your file. Your tax preparer would know how to put that in there. And so it's kind of, if you go to a good tax preparer, they're going to know what your deductions are. They're going to take the time to figure out what you need. But there's also a comprehensive list of business tax credits on the IRS website. Anything, any questions that you have, the irs.gov is there to help you. Now the credits, here's a credit, especially when it was helpful for St. Louis, the rehabilitation credit. If you purchase a home that is a historic site and you are rehabilitating that place or a business, you can get a credit. There's also low opportunity zones, or opportunity zones, which are neighborhoods that the government has decided is a place that we are trying to develop. We are adding money. We are investing in this area. And you as a business owner will get a credit for building or establishing or having businesses in those zones. And I know, again, St. Louis is a really great place because there are some places for opportunities. Another one is employer provided child care credit. If your employer provides credit, or as an employer, if you provide child care for your employees, there's an opportunity for you to get that tax credit as well. And again, the comprehensive list is on the irs.gov website. So this is where it can start to get tricky. So state, federal, and local taxes. There are federal taxes, and then there's also state taxes. Or if you have a franchise of your business, there are franchise taxes. There's also local business taxes and licenses that are required. So if you have a bar or a restaurant, you will still have to get your alcohol license. You may still have to get different local requirements that allows you to operate your business. And so just because you're filing taxes every year does not mean that you are in accordance with local business taxes. If you have property, just like you have to pay your property taxes, all of that is included in the tax bracket. If you have receipts for that work, you can also include that in your business. So if you are paying business taxes, there is a place for your tax professional to include your business taxes so that you can get a break. sales tax, depending on where you are, if that is applicable to your business. And then there's also multi-state activity, which can be tricky for those cities that are close to both sides. And so, for example, St. Louis is one of those places where you may do business in St. Louis, but you also may do business in Illinois on the Illinois side. There are multi-state requirements. You may have to file for both states. So that's something to really keep in mind if you're doing businesses across state lines. Some important dates that are really important for you to think about. January 26th, the IRS started accepting returns. It takes about 21 days to process it. April 15th through the 26th. I'm sorry, April 15th is the deadline, and you can get to file for this year, for the 2025 year. And automatic extensions last about 6 months after. Now, if you need additional time, the IRS will give you additional time, but they will still incur interest. So just because you file for an extension does not mean that you don't have to pay or that you will not be required to do anything else. Let's see. What do I bring to my tax appointment? First, you need to gather all your documents. If you work a full-time job, you have to have a W-2 or a 1099. If your student is in college, there's a 1098-T, which is your tuition statement. If you have a house, this is where it gets tricky. In the past, owning a home benefited a taxpayer. These days, it doesn't necessarily benefit. So you will still get a tax statement from your mortgage company, but and bring it to your tax meeting. But a lot of times, it will not help the numbers. Of course, if you have an employer identification number, if you have a business bank statement, you want to bring that with you. Any income records would be very helpful. And this is where a lot of business owners, a lot of people start out in business and they get kind of caught up. The challenge with keeping records throughout the year is hard. If you're a business owner, you're trying to figure out exactly what your craft or your trade is. You're trying to keep the bills paid. You're trying to expand the business and stay current and relevant in different ways. But you have to figure out, how do you keep your records clean so that at the end of the year, you can either get money or pay back money, because not everyone gets a refund when they file their taxes. And so your income records are really important to have clean records. I actually had a client, or did a consultation with a client last year, and he had a very different business. It was in the sporting arena, which was a little different for me trying to figure that out, but his records were all over the place. Literally, the records were all over the place. He had a prior bookkeeper, got rid of that bookkeeper, got another bookkeeper, and his businesses were all over. It was just everywhere. And so he had to track down 3 people just to get 1 year's income records together. And tell you the truth, I still haven't heard back from him. And so that's something to really think about when you're building a business. How do you keep track of your records? And all of your expenses as well. So the income coming in as well as the money that you spend out. There's different software you can purchase that will do it for you. There's different people you can contact, a CPA, which is a certified person who knows the ins and outs of taxes in a very different way than just a regular tax preparer. So the certified accountant, that would be a great person. Now, that is an expense, but depending on how much income you're getting and how many expenses you have, it may be worth the investment. And again, if you're using them as professionals, you can file them in your taxes. Again, it may help, it may not help, but it's important to know that you really need to be intentional about how you keep your records. Your receipts. I tell most of my clients, sometimes they don't have all their receipts. Here's what I'll say. You only really need your receipts in the event you're audited. Now, if you are audited, the challenge with that is you are required to show proof for everything that is in your tax return. If you do not have the receipts, the IRS is going to charge you and they're going to penalize you. So when you hear people adding extra stuff or just kind of making up numbers, they may get away with it, but eventually the IRS will catch up with you. So you really want to be intentional about really only filing the expenses that you really can prove that you paid for. In terms of supplies, if you're purchasing computers, printers, anything like that, again, you want to save your receipts if you can, or if you have a business credit card, you can put it all on your business credit card. Let's see, mileage logs if you're traveling, for truck drivers a lot of times, or Uber drivers. You can also include, if you own the truck or own the car, you can include your oil changes. If you got new tires, car washes, because that helps you with your business. Especially if you're an Uber driver, you have to maintain a clean car. And so all of those things, again, you keep your receipts and you can file that for your business. Another thing that will be important or helpful is your prior year tax return. Once we see what you have had done before, it's really important for your tax preparer to see it. There are some credits that have limitations. So you may get a credit this year that you got last year, but there could be a limit on it to where you can only get it for 4 years. And so one of those examples would be an education credit for a student in college. There are opportunities if you have a college student to get an education credit. But again, it maxes out after a certain amount of time. And so that's why having your prior tax year return is really helpful, because if you have a really good tax preparer, they're going to look for those breaks for you. Let's see. You also need your identification card. You also need to read the reduction list, again, to see if there's any deductions out there for you that will help you. Again, lastly, only, again, count expenses of purchases that you can verify if you are audited, because the IRS will randomly audit people. That doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It doesn't mean your tax preparer did anything wrong. It literally just means the IRS goes through and either they want to audit someone who's consistently filed maybe no income in a business. That's something that people do. They try to get a bigger refund or not owe the IRS. So they'll say, well, my business didn't make any money this year. Well, you can do it, but after a couple of years, the IRS is going to say probably the same thing anyone else would say. How do you keep operating a business that's not making money? So the IRS will audit. They may just do a spot check. Maybe your preparer has a lot of tax returns. I'm here in North Carolina with my niece. She sees over 200 clients a year. She will get audited. They will spot check her clients just to make sure that she's not in a rush. She's not just throwing anything in there, that her clients are really being honest about their paperwork. As a tax preparer, there is a due diligence that we have to do as tax preparers. It's literally going to ask us for, did this person verify? Did they show you proof? Are you attesting to all this information being correct? So there are really serious implications for not being honest on your tax returns for the person being audited and also for the tax preparer. So again, you really want to keep everything, only really file what you can verify and have receipts and credit for. So now you say, I've already submitted my tax return. Now what do I do? You submit the return. If you overpay taxes, they're going to require you to set up a payment plan. Federally, they're going to say, hey, you owe us some money. Let's go ahead and put your bank account in here. Let's go ahead and figure out a payment plan and go from there. If you have not overpaid, if you have underpaid, you will get a refund. Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm saying this backwards. If you overpaid, you get a refund. If you underpaid, you have to pay back the money. And so if you made $100,000 and you only paid $200 to the IRS in taxes all year, they're going to make you set up a payment plan. So that's where that tricky piece comes in, where people try to go in and say, oh, I didn't make that much money, or I had too many expenses. And again, the IRS is going to look at that after so many years. If you've been operating a business 5 years and you haven't made a dime, why are you still in business? And so you really want to pay attention to that. So once you file, if you owe money, you will set up a payment plan. If you do not owe money, in about 21 days is what the IRS says, you will receive a refund check. And that can be in paper, it can be direct deposit, or it can be in a cash card. But again, that's up to your and then the letter will catch you. Now, here's what I'll tell you. Do not ignore any communication from the IRS or the state. So I mentioned that I live in St. Louis. I live in Florissant, but I'm originally from North Carolina. When I left North Carolina and moved to Missouri, I was still in college and getting my doctorate degree in North Carolina. The state of North Carolina thought I still lived here because I was still technically in state status as a doctoral student. So they kept sending me letters, and I'm like, oh, not a big deal. I don't live there. I pay Missouri taxes. I filed every year. After that third letter, I'm like, let me take this serious. I'm the tax preparer. I should know better. But after the third one, I've contacted the state of North Carolina because they give you phone numbers to call. People pick up pretty quickly. And so they told me what I needed to send over and verify that I live in St. Louis. I have a home here. I have a job. I can show a W-2. And so I did all of that. And they said, okay, your case is taken care of. About 3 months later, I'm literally in Virginia at my nephew's graduation, and my bank card, my card stopped working. Like they completely put a stop on my card. And so I was going crazy, and I look at the bank statement and it says online on my phone, state of North Carolina has a hold on my account. They were trying to take all my money off. And so it happened to be on a Friday. And that Monday may have been like a holiday, Memorial Day or something. I don't know, some holiday that Monday. So I could not call the state of North Carolina until Tuesday. Luckily, I called them. They apologized because one person took in my records, someone else didn't connect it with something. It was something internal. But those people had already contacted my bank. The bank was notified because I called the bank immediately. The bank could not take the hold off. No one could do anything. It had to be the state of North Carolina. So when you get any communication from the IRS or the state or anyone, you want to follow up as soon as possible. The state, the government, the IRS, the feds, they want their money. So please, please, please do not ignore any communication. If you get audited or if they ask you anything, you want to respond immediately. And if you don't know what to say or what to do, contact your tax preparer. They will guide you through the process. And that's a little different from if you file yourself on a TurboTax or something like that. You don't really get to bounce ideas off of people unless you really know what's going on the tax world. But it's really good as a business owner to contact a tax professional who can help you, who can walk you through the process, and who can advocate for you and help you in the event you are audited. I'm going through it pretty fast because I feel like last year I didn't leave enough time for questions. But are there any questions? What questions can I answer? And is there anything else I can go back over in more detail that would be helpful? And I guess you can kind of unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Rita. I have a question. Can you explain, as a business owner, gross retail taxes? I feel like that is in St. Louis, Missouri. I own a business and we're down in the St. Louis city area. And those gross retail sales taxes, and where I am, it's almost 11%. That is absolutely absurd. I don't think it's discussed enough for people who have retail businesses who have to make that decision on a regular basis about it, as well as saving enough for your federal and your state taxes. Those are together, you're spending so much into the taxes. But I feel like, can you address or explain so that I better understand gross retail taxes? Because they're taxing off of your gross. Federal and state, you can talk about off of your net, but the gross is something totally different.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that, Rita. And here's the thing, I don't know as much as in detail about the taxes, but here's what I'll tell you. For businesses in this status that has those different tax brackets, you may want to file quarterly taxes. Now, that would be one of those companies that they would prefer that you do quarterly. So you can look at exactly where you are throughout the year. If you wait till the end of the year, that's when it becomes burdensome. So I would recommend you get with a tax professional who can look at paying quarterly taxes and figure out how you can get ahead of it instead of trying to play catch up at the end of the year.
And so I agree. This I've definitely in the past I did not make as much, so the quarterly it didn't. I'm sorry, the yearly did not affect me, but 2025 was a much better year. So when you hit over six figures, that amount at one time is like insane. And so understanding to be able to do the quarterly taxes is important. Do you all have any recommendations for CPAs or anyone who can do it?
Yeah, I have a CPA here in North Carolina, but I've got to see if I can find one in St. Louis. Let me do a little digging and I'll be able to get you some information. If you want to drop your email in here, I can definitely do a little digging and find someone. And really,
Thank
the
you.
person in North Carolina could help you as well. So I'll
Hmm.
ask him, he might know somebody in Missouri.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Hello, my name is Danisha. I wanted to know, will we get a copy of this PowerPoint?
Oh, you can, yes. Miss
Okay.
Yolanda has the PowerPoint. She can send it over to you for sure.
Yeah,
Okay, and then
I'll make sure we send one out to everyone who's applied for it. For the
okay,
yeah. Oh, it's in the
and
Zoom. Andrew, go Andrew.
and then also in specific, so my business is an adult daycare, and I know you were talking about W-2 and 1099 employees. Um, what pretty much will determine what employee would be a W-2 or 1099? Would it have to be the full-time employee because I will not be offering benefits, and I know you spoke of that. So just kind of more clarity on that because I was thinking about exploring that option as for making the employees 1099.
Yeah, I actually just saw a company yesterday. We were filing, and they have a behavioral health center, and they were all 1099 employees. And I was confused. I said, well, why would they be 1099 employees if this is a legit business? But the difference is The W-2 employees are typically getting benefits, and the company has a higher income. So in terms of whether you want to do 1099 or W-2s, it's really about the company's income as a whole. 1099 employees, they pay their own insurance. They don't have any health care, no vision. They just completely just come in and work, and they have to get everything else on their own. And then at the end of the year, you would give them the 1099 that just shows exactly what you paid them. It doesn't take out any taxes, doesn't do anything. They have to file their own taxes as a self-employed person and figure out their own transportation, their own, they operate as a business just the same way you would operate as a business, as a person. So I would say it depends on the tax bracket that you're in, because depending on your money, you might, the income, you might not want to be a LLC. You might want to be um, um, a S corp. So that's really what you want to look at, your income and how much money you want to spend out for your employees. And if you want to give them benefits and insurance and things like that, if that's something the company can afford. But again, I've seen, like I said, the behavioral health center we were looking at yesterday, every last one of their employees are 1099. They know that they have to get their own insurance, they have to get their own benefits, and they have to find their own taxes. They just get all gross, all income, nothing is taken out of their money. They get paid $200 a day, they get exactly $200 a day. Whereas a W-2 employee is going to get the 200 minus taxes, state, minus federal, state, federal money. And you typically would need someone to create those papers for you. So you would have to have a business person or a tax person on your team who could prepare those 1099s or W-2s every year, which is again another tax write-off. So it's really just up to you and how much money you're willing to spend or how much it's worth investing in employees. Now, some people, it just depends on the people that work with you as well. Some people prefer 1099s. They prefer 1099s because they can, again, put in their own incomes or deductions. But I'll go back to the Uber driver. If you're an Uber driver, you're a 1099 person, but you can put in your car, you can put in your tires, you can file your gas, you can file all of that stuff. Whereas if you worked for a taxi company, if you're getting a W-2, you're only getting what they give you. So that would be the difference in that. Did that kind of answer anything for you, Donisha?
It did. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad I signed up for this because the information that you spoke of as for like the prepare of being the oversight and things like that as for the IRS, never knew that. So that was very informative and insightful. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're muted, Sabrina.
Oh yeah, I'm just
Do have
talking.
another question, Sabrina. I just thought about this.
Okay.
So I purchased a lot of furniture for my business from a dental surgeon. He was closing his practice, but I completely forgot, and they forgot when getting the furniture to give me a list of everything I purchased. What would you suggest? And I pulled everything from my business bank account, but I just pulled out money. I didn't have like, this computer cost this. So what would you suggest me doing as for like creating a document or having some type of trail of what I paid for?
Yeah, I would kind of freestyle it. If you grab two chairs, and the best thing I say do is just try to check a market rate on Google. If you just have
Okay.
a couch, you go and say we got two couches, two tables, a couple of desks, and just estimate some numbers. So the IRS isn't, as long as the purchases make sense. And so if you have been in business, like if you're a relatively new business and you buy new furniture, it makes sense, right? If you've been in the business 20 years and you buy all new furniture, maybe that makes sense. But if you've been in 2 years and you bought new furniture when you first started, 2 years later you got more furniture, that's where the IRS starts kind of getting fussy with it. So I would say if you're a relatively new business and you purchase stuff, or you kind of know what you have, I would just guesstimate. And if you
Mm-hmm.
purchase with cash or credit card, maybe you can see the actual purchase on your card, because you can also use bank statements as your verification for your file. So I would, yes, if you purchase with credit card, if you pull the money out or swipe with your card, just go in and take a screenshot of it and just have it in the event you're audited. Because again, your tax preparer doesn't need it, but if you get audited, then you have to pull everything.
Okay. All righty. Thank you again.
You're welcome. So Miss Rita, I just realized you're not your average lemonade. I actually made a video with your company at the Solar Market one day.
Woo,
So I
woo.
love coming down there.
Did you tag me in it? I don't know
I
that I
think you
seen
y'all posted me on your page.
it. Okay, good.
Like,
That's
not your average
good.
lemonade. I know them. They got the
Yes, yes,
good tacos.
yes, yes. And we're preparing for the new year. And as our business is growing, right, we're making more money. And I do taxes on the side, but I definitely, it's a really hard to work a full-time job,
Yes.
a full-time business, do taxes on the side, and do my own bookkeeping. I've got to, I'm at a
Yes.
place where I need to delegate that to someone so that I'm crossing all my T's and dot my I's because I always step back like, how did you miss that? Or why did you not see that? Or how could
Yeah.
you miss that information? And to understand some of the tax laws that every year they change, I have to take
Yes.
time to study those things after working a full-time job and have a full-time business. So I am I I can no longer put all the hats on my
Yeah.
head. Right now, it's time for me to delegate to someone else to be able to assist. And that, to me, the retail taxes, we've always paid our retail taxes. But this
Yeah.
year, as we hit over six figures, that it was a beast, right? That was a beast. And I feel like I don't know that if all of these courses that I sit in or some of the classes that I take,
Yeah.
I don't think they discuss that enough. And if they do
Yeah.
discuss it, maybe I didn't take enough notes to
Yeah.
keep up
Yeah.
with some of those things. But I've been always doing my own taxes, and I'm glad that the young lady was asking about understanding the bookkeeping. And thank you for keep reiterating receipts, because if you do it on a debit card or credit card, you can always track those things. But as a tax preparer myself, I don't need to see all those receipts. Don't bring me.
Right.
I'm not a
Yes.
bookkeeper. You're not paying me for bookkeeping, honey. I'm trying to
Yes.
keep my own books. So
Mm-hmm.
it is. And I'm converting this year to QuickBooks simply
Yeah.
because I need a space, right? I
Yes.
can no longer, I've got too many Excel sheets for every single thing.
Mm-hmm.
So QuickBooks is where I'm pivoting to, and being able to write those expenses off are great. But that definitely kicked my butt for the retail gross. That's I'm over here still, and that was due by the 31st. So I wish I did better understand that I should have set that up quarterly.
Yeah. And I'll say too, I'm learning that there's a lot more tax software out here now. This whole AI movement that's going on,
Hmm.
there's a lot of
Hmm.
things going on in the tax industry as well that makes it easier, one for preparers and for tax clients. And so there's also places, I saw a couple of apps where you can take pictures of your receipts and they file everything for you. And
Yeah,
then at the end
yeah.
of the year, you can type in food or type in
Hmm.
clothes or whatever, and then it separates it for you. So they
Hmm.
are creating other business things that will help business owners and tax preparers, but it does take time to kind of learn it and make sure it's safe, because you do want to be responsible and respectful of people's information, um,
Hmm.
and move in a move professionally and protect your client. So yeah, I
Yes.
understand. It's a lot of hats. It definitely is.
It is. It is. But this is great. I knew that I needed to sign up for it after I wrote that check. I was like, oh, I need to be
Yeah.
listening in for all tax information myself. So thank you for
Yeah.
all the knowledge that you're providing today.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for coming down to support us. Whoop whoop.
Yeah, I'll be back. I
Thank
love
you.
that place. I
Thank
actually
you.
went to Solar Market and bought some season 2 North Carolina because I wanted them to try some of my Solar
Oh,
seasonings. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of the market. So I'm glad y'all are down there.
thank you. Thank you.
Sabrina,
Mhm.
since Rita just spoke of bookkeeping, I feel like I'm trying to go backwards doing things that I probably should have been doing because my business isn't operating, but I'm very close to it.
Oh,
Um,
good.
what should I be doing as for, so what does bookkeeping need to include as opposed to what I would bring to the tax.
Yeah. Yeah, so they will look at, when you were asking earlier about W-2 or 1099 employees, they're going to look at the possibility. So they help you with all your paperwork to make sure you're certified in the way that you should be, whether that's LLC, S corp, partnership, whatever your business structure is. They're going to make sure you're in the right structure, because as your business grows, you may need to move to another structure. So they're going to help you with that. They're going to keep all of your ten your when your employees are hired, they're going to do all of their getting their information, filling out their paperwork. Excuse me. They're going to figure out what their tax status should be, whether they're exempt or they're claiming dependents. If you have insurance or benefits, they're going to make sure that's pulled out, because that's a fee that your company will pay, whether you're paying insurance for your clients or not. I mentioned earlier, some employers offer child credits or child care credits. If your company is going to do that, your bookkeeper is going to look at, hey, you might not be able to afford all of these things this year, but we can scale and grow to next year. They're going to make sure all of your invoices are paid. If you are, purchasing things or selling products or taking care of family member or people that have not paid their bill, they're going to say, hey, you're in debt this amount of much. This person hasn't paid in 6 months. So they're going to be your everything with your papers, your business side, and they're going to help you grow your business. That's what a good bookkeeper is going to do. They're not just going to say, oh, I need all your receipts when you make purchases, but they're going to give you tips for expanding your business and how to grow your business financially. And then at the end of the year, either they will file your taxes or they will give you everything that you need in order to file your taxes. And again, if you get someone to bookkeep for you, that you can claim it as a tax write-off. You will include that in your tax payment. Any person that's helping you with taxes, anything with your business, there's contract people you can pay to help you with your business. And on the on the IRS form, I think it's like contract labor. So if you are paying someone to do these things, you will pay them, and then you will include that in your write-off as well. I don't know if
Okay.
I answered it. I think I went
You,
around 10 different ways. Did I
no,
answer your
you
question?
did. I
Okay,
needed
good.
all of that. And so I'll
Okay,
just
good.
reach out to Yolanda or Andrew, because I know you said that you would send that accountant or whoever
Yeah,
that's in North
yeah.
Carolina her
Mm-hmm.
readers information, because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I'm going to need. And I'm not at the numbers that readers there, but I definitely would want to have an accountant that I can trust, because we giving them all of our information. So that way I can have that for next year. So yeah.
Yeah, and even when Rita was saying QuickBooks, if you wanted to start with a software or something just as you're growing and maybe have someone to kind of consult with you, that might be worth it for the first couple of years until you're in a position financially where you can really pay someone, because they're
Okay.
not cheap. I'll tell you that they're
Mm-mm.
not cheap. But
Okay.
at the same time, there are some things you can do until you grow your business out, until you're fully, ready, that you can do to manage all your books in the meantime.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
You're welcome. Miss Barbara, did you have any questions? Did we lose you? We might have lost Miss Barbara. I know she's working. We've got, is it Romana? Romana, did you have any questions? Anything I can answer for you?
Sorry, getting to the unmute button took me a little bit. No, I'm here actually just to kind of learn and pick up on, the information that you shared. I'm a banker actually, so I don't own my own business, but I work with a lot of business owners. So anytime I get a chance to um, educate myself and be able to help my clients out and guide them a little bit better is always helpful. So I appreciate it. This was all good information.
Oh, thank you. And look, if you want to start a side business, it sounds like you got some people who are interested in a bookkeeper. So that might be something, if you're in the banking industry, that would be a great alignment for you as a side business to be a bookkeeper.
Yeah. And for the folks that are looking for bookkeepers, I do have quite a few people that like I've just known through the industry. If you ever want a referral, let me know.
Awesome. Yeah, and if Miss Romana, if you don't mind dropping your email in here as well, that would be awesome. And
Yep,
I'll put my email in here also if y'all have questions. And again, I do taxes in, it's federal, so I can do taxes anywhere. But if you need a tax professional, right now I'm in North Carolina. Like I said, my niece has a tax industry here, a tax agency here, but I also have my own tax company, but I work at home in Florissant. So if you need someone, I'll be back in St. Louis in March, but I can, file wherever I am if you're looking for a person. Like, I was speeding through my PowerPoint so fast. Last year, I felt like I didn't have enough time for questions. And now I'm like, maybe I went too fast.
No, no, you were fine, but you was moving. I was like, oh, but it was great information, and I appreciate you wanting to make sure that we got all of the information that you had available. So I'm sure no one mind. So that was really, really, really informational. Is there any other questions online? There's no questions. It's too small. Or any comments about the presentation? Well, if all hearts are settled, then we'll end it here. Sabrina, thank you so much for all your information. We really appreciate you. Do you want to drop your information in the or is it in the PowerPoint?
It is. I put my it is in the PowerPoint on the last slide. But I have my email address here also, and I'm gonna put my number on here, but it is on the PowerPoint.
And we'll send out the PowerPoint presentation to everyone whose email we have. We'll make sure you guys get it. So once again, thank you so much, and hopefully you'll be back next year to do it again. Have
Absolutely. I will do anything you ask me to do, Miss Yolanda.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Everybody have a wonderful day. Enjoy your days.
Thank
All right.
Y'all.
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.